Hello, skis. Your King Ginger, prep school. I'm joined by
Pusheen. No, we're not endorsed or sponsored. Hi, I'm Shannon.
Pushing, get at us.
Right? Get those Pusheen dollars.
So, Shannon is a good friend as well as a player in D&O and also plays in the Star Wars trilogy games today.
Yeah, you know, is everyone's favorite bounty hunter.
Yes. The bounty hunter with the heart of a mom. Dealing justice and lemon bars. Throughout a galaxy far, far away. Good times.
I love that character so damn much.
How could you not? It's such a bizarre mishmash of things that should not work together.
The best part of it is she literally came out of a 2 a.m. giggle fit session with my former partner. Like, that's literally how she evolved. Was just
I think that a lot of the best stuff comes out of not so much that, but like I will have weird dreams and I'll wake up and I'll be like, oh God, I gotta remember this. Or I'll have a thought while I'm trying to fall asleep, while I'm trying to give my meds time to kick in. Or whatever it may be, I'll have just ideas that'll pop up. I mean, I've probably got like 15 different notes going on my phone at a time. And
right.
Some of them are very involved, some of them not so much. I don't know. I'll get an idea.
I love that.
I gotta write this down because if I forget it, I'm gonna be real irritated at myself. So I was lucky enough to have Shannon on today because they and I are conspiring. Hello, one person. I'm going to guess it might be Shaggy. Shaggy, if it's you, please let us know how your polar plunge went. Shaggy, if it is Shaggy, Shaggy was raising money and doing a polar plunge in Chicago this weekend.
Oh, that's amazing.
You know, and Shaggy is kind of our on every show watcher and contributor and all around good person. Aww. So in our D&O campaign, and if you're a player in the D&O campaigns, I would kindly invite you to sod off and go do something else for this show. You are kind enough to allow me to use Stormsong, which is your homebrew campaign world, correct?
Correct, yes.
Tell us a little bit about Stormsong.
So Stormsong, interestingly enough, this is going to sound so hokey, but it's completely true. I came up with the concept for Stormsong on a train ride. How non-turfy Joe Rowling that can be. I was on my way to my late father-in-law's funeral in Chicago. I was taking the Amtrak down, and I initially it's kind of like I had an Expanse moment where it was designed to be one thing and then to be another thing, and then it turned into a D&D campaign. It was initially meant to be a manga because at the time I was working as a comic artist and doing freelance artwork. And I just didn't have the time because I had like 2 other full-time projects going. And so it just got shelved. And then I thought about making it a tabletop game, but whatever. So ultimately, we wound up utilizing it for D&D. So Stormsong is a world in which, when it was first created, magic did not exist. There was no magic at all. And eventually, the Aasimar arrived via an area called the Wellspring. And they brought magic to Stormsong. They kind of gifted it. They were this like celestial group of individuals. I've also taken a lot of liberties with races in this game. So
I think that's like the backbone of good homebrew D&D creation. If we think about it and we're honest about like ecology, races should never evolve the exact same way. I've toyed for a long time about having a world that is post-human, that it basically Commandy, the last boy on Earth. So where, you know, humanity's run its course. They've had their day, their era has ended, and it's there. If there are humans left, they're very few and far in between, and other races have evolved to move. Not even evolved is a bad choice of words. They have taken their moment in the sun. You know, that the elves have basically had their run, the dwarves. So you're seeing a lot of the other races kind of fill those gaps in, and you know, I think that's really Eberron does that really well. Ravnica does that really well. And then Mercer's setting, which name escapes me right now. Tal'Dorei.
Yeah.
Although that's like a continent, not the name of the world. I can't remember the name.
Right. His worlds are very immersive. So, So in Stormsong, when magic was gifted to everybody, some of the continents were actually lifted into the skies. Through the ages, there's and wars and, you know, conflicts, and like you do, there is still, it has kind of become this idealistic society where there's really, to the common eye, not a lot of conflict. Everybody kind of has, you know, the different continents have their own hierarchies and statuses, but it is a really very peaceful place. It's very idealistic, and it is all run by a character named the Archmage. And the concept of the Archmage is, after the last war, which was literally like hundreds of years long, there was such a huge human loss that they decided that because magic and science have grown to work together and they live in a very synchronous way in Stormsong, it's very almost like Final Fantasy-ish in that way. I guess that's the closest property I can kind of equate it to. They needed somebody who could control all of that. The technology that's used is very complex, and it takes a very powerful magic user to keep everything in check. And on Stormsong, magic and science together control everything. They control the weather patterns. They control the way that the earth itself kind of functions, the tides, the way that the crops grow, like everything is impacted and controlled by this one foundational machine that has to be run by the Archmage. When the High Council of Continents got together to assign the first Archmage, they all agreed that adults were too corrupt. So the only way to ensure that there was always someone that was pure of heart and good intention was to assign a child. So they started several schools that were designed to help provide kids with the best possible youthhood that they could, so that all children that were candidates for the Archmage would feel loved and appreciated and have empathy. And at the age of 12, or that's kind of like when they would select an Archmage once per generation, and that person would be the Archmage and control everything until the time came to select the next candidate. because their whole concept was a child can at least be pure of heart if we set them up the right way, right?
And
They will always, yeah.
And
but
the child shall lead us.
Yes, and the child shall lead us. But there's always been some people that just disagree with that and feel like it's a little cruel, like it's so much to put on one child. But that's how it's run for several generations now, and that is Stormsong. It is this idealistic world where magic and science work together in harmony, and it's all on the shoulders of a 12-year-old girl named Leona.
So you were kind enough to kind of allow me to get my grubby little fingers into your idealistic setting, because your character, Charity Momart, is from Stormsong in D&O and is a close confidant, best friend with Leona, who is the Archmage of Stormsong. So for those of you who do partake of the D&O know that Charity made a foe out of a Rakshasa named Ragash. And Ragash desperately wants to recruit your character, but at the same time is kind of the spurned. I know that Cassandra had this question the other night. She was like, why is everyone always trying to get us to do stuff?
And we're awesome.
And I was like, you have to kind of think about it in the fact that you have 4 characters who can do something that no one else can do that they know of. Also, you have all these other characters, their extended family, who can all do things that are slightly different. Why? And why were they all being brought together under the banner of one character who was not being very forthcoming of who they actually were? So there's things in the background afoot. But so one thing we discussed was that at some point I'm going to not run and you're going to run, and everything is up for debate and up for change. So I've just been calling it the Shadow War of Stormsong. Because
I love it.
I'm a huge Hawkman guy, and there was a Hawkman story called The Shadow War of Hawkman. I love that story. So I have our campaign hook. It's that Ragash is corrupted. And as always, I use the Mike Shea style of planning because I think it's simplistic, it's easy to follow, but it also gives you enough of a gap to move your stuff in and out and make those changes as per necessary.
Love it.
I have a light in my face. So Ragash, he has managed to corrupt the Majocracy of Stormsong. He's actually used Anon to replace Leona.
Rude.
So Anon is a sibling of the characters, but they are probably hundreds and hundreds of years old. They are a Mimoloch, and also some sort of, I don't know how to describe it. They are basically a cross between a mimic and a doppelganger at this point. Anon, they can turn themselves into just about anything and do so on a consistent basis. Ragash and 5 others used to work under Anon before Ragash took up arms against him. So one of the things that Ragash, in my mind, as a spy, since that's what Anon was doing, was running a school for spies and assassins, has basically knows that like going after in a full frontal confrontation would not work. So the first things that Ragash did was attack news outlets, law enforcement, and the elite class revolving around the Majocracy. Either corrupting or ensuring that they were oblivious to what's going on. Your thoughts. It's your world, so please. What works, what doesn't?
No, I like this. Let me think on this a little bit. So Stormsong is comprised of different continents called the Baselands and the Skylands. So there are, let me look at my notes. This world is so complex, I have to refer to my own goddamn notes all the time.
There's other, so the Baselands, if I remember right, that's like more your working class.
Yes, with the exception of Gowina. Gowina is kind of what they call their beacon of beauty. It's kind of where like a lot of the resorts are. It's like a paradise. Think of it, it's like very Hawaii. You know what? It's
like an oasis.
Yeah, it's basically an oasis. It's really beautiful. But Delphine and Arkilia are definitely working class. Arkilia is known for being farmlands and like mining area. And Delphine is mostly like marshes, lakes, channels. So it's a lot of the fishing industry and things happen there. The Skylands are where like a lot of the craziness kind of happens because Cadenza is the capital continent. That's where the Archmage's Tower is. So that's kind of like, that is the highest society area. It is very snooty. It is very like, everyone is like, oh, nothing's ever wrong with our world. It's fantastic here. We love it. They're very like blind to the things that happen on the rest of the world.
So kind of my thought with that is the way in my mind where Gash would think is, I don't care about the Baselands. They mean
I like that. Ooh, okay.
They don't mean anything to me because they don't hold any power. They don't hold any sway.
Right.
So in my head, he's directing everything at all of his kind of subterfuge and corruption and everything else is all aimed at the Skylands.
I like that. He would probably be particularly interested in the continent that we call Symphony. Symphony is where the Thieves' College is. So that's kind of like, I think he would have like some particular interest on that. It's a very like educational area. It's where like, it's also where the Artisans Guild is. So there's a lot of like arts colleges and things, but it's also where the entire basis of the Thieves' College is. There's a lot of like people there that would like to separate you from your very expensive pocketbook while you're meandering around. We'll put it that way.
And this is where I'll be interesting to see where you take it is how does he go about like corrupting that, you know? How does he go about like laying in thick? Because one thing is we're not going to get back to Stormsong for about a year in game's time.
Yeah.
So
God, Charity's gonna be so mad.
She is, and that's one thing that as we finish up what we're doing now, and the high adventure, high risk, high reward thing slows, and we get into like a year in game of school, is this idea of, you know, what does go through Charity's mind, and the fact that she wants to go back so desperately. And the folks, and this is all contingent upon the survival of the next two big things.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Because we thought the dragon was bad. Just wait.
It wasn't too bad.
What, you know, how does she deal with that, like being stuck? And also, you and I should talk because I still have to figure out. I'm gonna play. What am I gonna play? What makes sense? All right, so we have truth one. So one thing that Shay pushes really hard is have 6 truths of your world. 6 things that, even if in this case it's more of a campaign and not a mini campaign within a campaign, but 6 truths of Stormsong in this confrontation. So I think this first one, the world split, about the Baselands of Skylands, and we talk about Ragesh, basically saying, oh, Thieves' College, perfect. I used to teach at one of those. Mm-hmm. So how can I manipulate that in order to be kind of, my thought is, the backbone of a secret police? I
That could be good.
I can't remember what Ravenloft setting it is, but one of them has this thing called the Kargat, and they're like a secret police. I think it might be in. No, it's not in Darkon. I can't remember what it is, but it's basically like the further you go up in the secret police in rank, eventually they just turn you into a vampire because they're just like, oh, you're loyal, and this ensures loyalty, as well as now makes you extremely dangerous. So, trying to think of some way where you can manipulate that kind of power structure in order to ensure that absolute loyalty, as well as a certain moral flexibility.
I love that though. It's funny because like all of the Skylands kind of have these like music infused names. So I just got this idea to like call them the orchestrators.
Oh, the conductors.
Yes. Oh, that's good.
So there is a Clutch song that I'm very fond of called The Guild of Mute Assassins. And that whole song is just about this guild of mute assassins, and I like that idea of like maybe even a subsect, like almost like a religious subsect where they're so afraid of telling what might be going on, they just remove their tongues.
So, fun story in my homebrew world, and I'm kind of tying this in. As part of the Thieves College, the Arakakra are one of the races where we are, but we have several Arakakra that just don't, use their words because you can't. And one of them, my spouse's character, is literally an assassin. I don't know why I let him use the freaking psychic assassin beta because he's so overpowered.
The silent songbird.
Oh, okay. I'm jotting that down. That's very good. This is so good, I might use it in my campaign.
If you do hear their song, it's already too late.
Oh my god, I love it. I'm literally like jotting this down because
no, good. That's the thing. I don't want what we're doing in D&O to like break your continuity. Also, that's what like the Sunday mornings should be. It should be about cool exchanges of ideas and trying to help each other. I know I get tunnel vision sometimes really hard when I'm running games. Like I'll have an idea, and sometimes I will work so hard to get from the base of that idea to a logical, in my mind, conclusion that I miss the forest through the trees. So having other people's eyes or suggestions, I think it helps so much, and it's kind of, again, it's part of just having a good, strong, fun community of folks. Yes. So we have one truth. What's another truth of Stormsong that we can also talk about how it ties to the Shadow War?
The world does not function without the stone grid. Without the stone grid, nothing remains as it is. So go ahead.
And only Leona can access that, right?
Yes. So the stone grid is kind of the piece that keeps the world churning. It's the kind of the mechanism of the giant machine that handles all of the control. It is literally like a floating grid of gemstones way up in the sky. And that's how it's interconnected through science and magic. That's how they work together. And the grid is what is used to kind of like control the weather patterns. And it's... So
is it almost like a physical manifestation of like the weave?
Yeah, actually.
Okay. That's super cool.
And it's maintained by gnomes. That's why Charity speaks gnomish. It's maintained by gnomes who have skyships that never come down. Like, they are psychotic. They just consistently live in the skies. They have been up there for so many generations that they're gone, man. They're called the Gritters. And that's why Charity speaks gnomish, because it's required of anybody who is a candidate to become the Archmage. You have to be able to speak the language of the beings that help maintain and repair the grid.
So I'm assuming like the Gritters have their own entire thing going on because they're so removed from the rest of society.
Yeah.
How easy would it be to manipulate that?
Probably not very, because they are incredibly stubborn.
What if throughout this whole thing, the Gritters have been fighting like a war basically above everything else with Regesh's forces, and he has basically part and parceled them down to the minimal amount he can have.
I like that.
So like their society that has been decimated, and I think one of the ways that can be tied into corrupting that elite group in the Skylands is to basically plant that idea of like, why are you beholden to these gnomes who don't even play a part in your society? They've separated themselves above you. They never come down.
Oh, I like that.
You know, I think one of the best ways that a villain like this would, a villain like Regesh, I don't think wants a upfront confrontation, because I think the realization is I won't win a long-term upfront confrontation because I don't have the numbers and I'm not quite powerful enough. Because even if you kill me, I'll go back to the 9 hells and come back eventually, but I'll have all that time to plan.
Right. And it's actually smart, because like when you're talking about this very like idealistic kind of society where like everything is just, you know, there's factions and there's societal structures, and it's, you know, like that makes the most sense to me. It just makes the most sense to me. So I like that. Yeah, the Gritters are ridiculous. I quite love them. There's one of them who I'll bring into this that my players love, and his name is Bill Gosh, and he may be a love note to Brendan Lee Mulligan.
So getting back to another question I had. Can only the Archmage operate this?
Yes.
So I had a thought about that, because that's what I thought. I thought, how would Regesh get Leona to do this? Because I kind of look at that character as kind of uncorruptible.
Yes, she is. She's everything Charity is not.
That's kind of where I looked at it as less of that and more of like, who would Charity actually look up to or be that invested in? It's got to be someone who there's reason to believe in that person. So I kind of thought of them as like, oh, this is someone who is like such a strong force of like the best of their society that they're incorruptible.
Yes, that would be very accurate. She's, yeah.
If you can't corrupt the incorruptible, how do you manipulate them? So here's my thought. My thought was for the man who has everything. How does Mongol make a trap for Superman that Superman doesn't want to leave? He gives him everything he wants. He uses the Black Mercy to put him in a coma, basically, where all he wants is there. And for him to leave it means he has to basically give all that up. So being that, you know, he's a horrific bad guy and has access to a lot of bad guy stuff. What if Ragesh has a analog for the Black Mercy? And that's what he's using on Leona. So Leona continues to operate things thinking that I am simply making the world better and better and better. I just have to keep operating the machine.
I can see that. She also very deeply cares about the people of Stormsong and wants to keep them safe. Like, as hokey and as simplistic as that sounds, like, she would definitely function in a way that would be, how can I keep the most of my people safe?
Would Leona operate better in that mindset would she operate better if it's a time of like a golden age, it just keeps getting more golden, or if it's there's an outside force that is threatening Stormsong and you have to be the diligent protector? Because I kind of look at the first one being maybe more in line with what I know of that character. It's like, oh, it's a golden age, everything's great, so we get to push the boundaries of what can happen and we get to create this grand society.
That's tricky because like she was raised to believe that they are in a golden society, that her job and the way that they kind of build this on the Archmage candidates is, it is your job to protect the people. It is your job to unify the people. I guess it could be a both and, honestly. Like a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Like I could see that fitting. But I could also see her like she's not, Leona is not very kind when it comes to hostile behavior. Yeah, it could be a both and. That's going to be like the trickiest thing to kind of figure out, because like I could see both working.
I will leave that. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't want to know. Yeah, I don't want to know what's going, because could also be a way to break her out. Do they have to go inside her head to break her out? Yeah. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with that story for The Man Who Has Everything. It's an Alan Moore Superman story. So for Superman's birthday, he opens a package, and it's a plant, and it attaches to his face, and it's the Black Mercy, or to his chest, and it literally puts him in a world where Krypton lived, and he's living with his family, and everything's great. There's a great Justice League cartoon episode of it too. But Superman, Robin, and Wonder Woman show up to the fortress to celebrate, and Mongol's there, and Superman's in this coma. So they have to fight. And this is Silver Age Mongol, so he's crazy tough.
Yeah, gnarly.
But there is this moment where Superman breaks free of the Black Mercy, and the reason he does is because he has to literally give up everything. And in that story, he has like a son, and he basically has to go, "You're not real. This is not real. All of you are dead. None of this is real." And when he gets out, he goes bonkos McFuckery all over Mongol. And there's this classic scene where Mongol is just like kicking the shit out of him, and Superman just turns to him and says burn, and his eyes are just fire, and he heat ray visions right through his arm. Cartoon's really good too, because it's all about Wonder Woman and Mongol fighting, and Batman being like, I am so out of my league right now. trying to get the Black Mercy off Superman, and Wonder Woman is just fighting. And I believe it's God, what is his name? All of a sudden, Michael Ironside does the voice of Mongol.
Perfection.
Yeah, that, and it's Justice League. It's either Justice League or Justice League Unlimited, so it's done Bruce Timm Paul Dini style. It's nice. I can't recommend it enough. So yeah, it's kind of where my thought process was. How do you stop the unstoppable, the uncorruptible? To me, Leona would fall in that kind of Superman spot where it's like, Mongol knows I can't beat you in a fight, so I'm just going to give you everything you ever wanted, and that'll be the thing. Can you give it up?
Nice. Okay, I like that.
So we're gonna call our version of it the Moore song route.
Okay.
So we'll sneak a little Alan Moore in there. We'll put song on it, and it's a route. And I'll let you take it from there. My thought is like, it's a plant that sings to you, and it sings a song of like your bliss.
You're like, all I can think of is Tangled. Like, it's everything comes back to Rapunzel for me. Let's just be real. So, I love it.
Nothing wrong with that.
All right,
so let's think of 3 more.
Okay, truths. The next one, mythical creatures like dragons, minotaurs, etc., do not exist on Stormsong. Is a key component of the base campaign that I'm running. Because they're there now, but I ain't gonna talk about how it happened.
Yeah, but they are there.
Actually, I can talk about them. No, they're not there. They were all being held in the realm of dreams. Religion is complicated on Stormsong, and honestly, that might be another thing. Is like faith really doesn't exist anymore. It's just archaic.
How does Ragash fuck that up? How does he bend the system in order to make that another problem where characters of good intent have to deal with that, so they can't figure out what he's doing beneath, or kind of what he's doing behind the scenes. Because I kind of look at the 6 truths we're using here as the 6 ways he's attacked their society in order to put himself and his plans below the surface and insidiously caused the decline.
There are... let me think about this. This was so long ago in the campaign. I've been running Stormsong for 2 years now. It's a very long campaign. There is a particular study area, like a particular focus area that is based on understanding dream magic. So that could be one way that he kind of gets into that. These individuals would not be able to rip into the fabric of reality to release those creatures, but they can get in touch with Delwyn, who is the fallen overseer. He's basically a fallen god. And he kind of controls the dream plane, which is where all of those mythical creatures exist.
What if there was a plague where people could sleep but they couldn't dream? So there is a manufactured cure or even drug that allows you to dream, and it's Ragesh basically using placebos in conjunction with this fallen god to say, oh, well, we're just going to lock them out of dreams. No more dreams for you. You don't get this.
I like that. That could work. Okay.
How do you spell Delwyn?
Delwine.
Elwine.
Mm-hmm. He's a jerk. He's very not nice, poopy butt face man. Charity doesn't like him a whole lot. I should clarify for anyone watching, Charity's actually the primary NPC of the Stormsong campaign in the homebrew world. So she is the catalyst that brought the party together. And in that particular, honestly, probably in any instance I play her, everybody loves her and everybody thinks she's fantastic. And I still stand by, she has all the makings of an immaculate villain.
That's kind of the point, right?
Exactly.
So what do we want to call this plague?
Let me think.
Restlessness?
Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, you know what? That fits. I can't like think of anything better, and I think that fits. That sounds good. I like it.
So through proxies, as offered placebos. Oh, can I remember how to spell placebos? That's not right.
No, that was right. Yeah, placebos. Yep.
Where's the spell check when you need it?
That's perfect.
Also, it adds to the war coffer.
Yes. Perfection.
All right. What's next?
I gotta think on this. Let me look at my notes real quick. The continent that is the primary kind of harbor for everything, like everything that is a resource goes in and out of this particular continent is
it's like the hub.
Yes, is Crescendo. So it's like all of the major airship harbors, all of the major trade posts, markets, like people from other continents that like may not get an opportunity to go to other places because of whatever reason, like they just don't have the money or they're not accepted as a part of society. Like oddly, the Azamar are very much like looked down on now. There's not much of them left. There are very, very, very small pockets of colonies. So like pretty much everything that's everything has to go through Crescendo. If it's a trade, if it's a material, a lot of like tourism aspects, like they'll have stopovers in Crescendo, etc.
Okay. How would we go about messing that up?
Well, considering it's how all of the materials from the baselands are distributed into the Skylands as well, and the Skylands really don't have an agricultural system. Literally, he could starve people out. I hate that I'm like, oh, my beautiful idealistic world. Why am I giving you ideas on how to mess it all up?
Taxes. Taxes. That's how he does it.
Yes, taxes.
It's the most logical, non-confrontational way of doing it. Just tax the shit out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I keep thinking about it, and like the silent songbirds are all going to be Kenku.
Oh, that's nasty.
It's good though. Yes, that's very good. That's very, very good.
All right, one more.
Let me think on this.
Hey, folks watching, if you have anything to add or you have ideas, please never hesitate to throw those things out here because
ask away.
We're always willing to hear.
So, the last thing that I can think of would involve the High Council of Stormsong, which is probably the easiest thing for him to get a hold of and manipulate, which is, basically representatives of each continent who all come together and they meet with Leona. It was designed initially to be like part of this very like democratic process, but over the generations, it has just evolved to like, these are just people with high status who show up at the palace once a month to like have a nice breakfast. And they say that they've talked about really important things, but really everything goes through the Archmage. So there's nothing to freaking talk about. So they just kind of like show up and go through the pomp and circumstance and maybe have an occasional discussion that has something to do with something that.
So are they okay with that? Or is that one of those things where like, this is
they're fine
insulting that I don't have actual power?
No, it's been so good that like they see it as a positive, honestly, where they're like, oh, look at my status, I get to go do this thing.
Because of that, wouldn't it simply be easier to and replace?
Yes.
Okay, then that's kind of where I'm thinking of, is he just replaces them with doppelgangers.
Rude.
we basically have a red brunch.
It's horrible. I'm never going to be able to go to brunch again. Oh my god, I hate you. Oh my god. Oh. Hell's Kitchen is ruined for me forever. Thanks. Oh my god, I love it.
That way too, I think that it gives you, when this is over, you get to, and this is something that I generally enjoy, you have a complete status quo change. So you get to put, you can put actual characters in those roles. It's like, hey, now you have to do something about this because it's on you.
Yeah, I'm into this. Awesome.
All right. So let's see. Those are our 6 truths. So we have fronts. How familiar are you with the concept of fronts in RPG planning?
I'm not, because I kind of use a different approach. So to fill my brain with knowledge.
So I believe this is both from 13th Age, and it's definitely a part of like long-term apocalypse world style planning. Fronts, generally, you only want to do them in 3s. They also, it's something that's used in Beyond the Wall, which is a great like combination system of 2nd edition and 5th edition. It's a really cool system because once, character creation is wild, and then you have these built-in other things. Sometime I'll have to like show it to you. We were playing a campaign of it for a while because your characters do start as kids. You are like, you all live in one village together and you kind of are building yourselves. So fronts are 3, they're bad guys, they're environmental effects, they're just bad things that could happen. And the idea with the front is they continue to move no matter what. So like you kind of have to figure out what you deal with as the PCs and what you're willing to let continue on its path, because you can't deal with all 3 at one time. So that means there's always a potential threat on the horizon. So my thought is Regesh's corruption, just what he's doing to Stormsong overall, which is kind of the main front. What if Delwyn's also using Regesh? Delwyn used to be a god. So why would Delwyn not look at it like, oh, you think you're playing me? Well, that's funny because I'm playing you.
Yeah. And that would absolutely track.
So if he's playing Ragesh, we have to figure out what is Delwyn's goal.
Delwyn's goal, at least in the original campaign, is to reclaim his position of godhood. Like, he's always trying to put himself back into that ultimate position of power. That's always his focus.
What holds him in check?
He was weakened tremendously. Like, he was stripped of most of his power when he was banished. So he's been trying to slowly amass it, but like he just hasn't found a way to get that power back. He's brought people to his cause, but he just hasn't quite been able to get back to his old levels.
So what if, through the plague of sleeplessness or restlessness, whenever you are allowed to visit Delwyn's realm, he basically uses that as a way to try to force you into fealty?
Yeah.
I've allowed you here, but I can take it all away.
Yeah. Yeah. That would work.
How would you like to go back to the nothingness when you close your eyes? There's nothing there. Some would say it's like dying. How would you like to live the little death over and over and over again?
Ugh. He would totally do that. He's a complete a-hole.
So my third proposed front is Leona's exhaustion.
Yeah, I like that.
You just can't, I mean, you can't do what she's doing forever. Especially with like no break. It's like my it goes either as two ways. She thinks it's like a conflict and she's like, I can't stop. I have to protect things. Or she's in that Superman role and it's just everything's so good I don't want to leave. But it could be a combination of both.
Yeah, it could be both.
So she's
honestly
stuck in this loop that she can't get out of, and it's just grinding her down. And what happens when she can no longer operate the stone grid?
Yep. Perfection. I promise I'm not crying. My eyeballs just keep watering and I don't know why.
That's all right. I save my tears for the D&O.
Yeah. Seriously.
Cassandra was so mad.
I thought for sure I thought she was done for. I thought that was it. I was so sad. I was like, no.
Yeah, it was if you two people who are watching who I don't know who you are, first of all, thank you. I hope you enjoy it. Second of all, you should be watching D&O every other Monday night.
Yes.
That's what we're planning for right now. All right, so here's where I don't do as well with this, and this is the three grim portents. So for each front, you want to have like, here's stage 1, here's stage 2, here's stage 3. What are the three things that the PCs will become aware of? And they should escalate. That should point to it and go, oh, if you don't handle this, it's going to be bad.
One would be if there's issues with the grid. Because if that grid falls, it's done so. Like, continents will fall from the sky and crash below. Mass casualties.
What would be like some slight issues with the grid? How would that manifest?
Most of the time what we would see is if there was a short in some of the connections and maybe there would be small patches of the grid that go down. So if the gridders have kind of been dwindled down, they might be having a hard time keeping up with the maintenance and upkeep. So if something happens that affects like an area of, 20 stones at one point, like it's going to create some problems. There might be some tornadic activity that no one planned on, or because the planet will be fighting against the magic at that point.
Does the grid also operate like a lot of the technology?
It enhances some of it, but I would think, that's actually a good point. Like, it might cause some issues the same way that we might see like a solar flare impact like cell towers or things like that. I could see that happening. Yeah.
So what would be the next step up from that? Like, I assume that number 3 is continents begin to fall.
Yeah, number 3 is continents fall, all die, even had it underlined. Breach hole, all die, even had it underlined. The second would be if a large enough section of stones went out, or if enough of them went out on a global scale, right? People would literally that's where I think you would see like major malfunctions happening, like weather patterns mass floods would happen, drought would hit areas that no one could have anticipated. The skylands might start experiencing tremors and quakes, and the buildings are not built for that there. Just massive like infrastructure issues would begin to happen across the planet. Like the weather patterns would be completely and utterly unpredictable. And just, I mean, there would undoubtedly be loss of life because they don't know how to plan for, tornadoes. Like if there's a forest fire, it's a planned, controlled thing that is designed to specifically like clear areas so that it can regrow. They wouldn't anticipate this. So if a large enough section of the grid starts to collapse, or
how would society interact with that? Like, would they become panicked? Would we start to see like goods hoarding and things like that, like we see in our society?
Yeah, I think without a doubt, yes. I think more so with the people of the Skylands. The Baseland folk are very community driven. I mean, you're talking about like, they're farmers, they're fishermen, they have communities that have been doing this for generations. Like everyone knows everybody. You know what I mean? I mean, they're big communities, they're cities, but they function differently there. I think in the Skylands, yeah. In the Skylands, you would see definitely people freaking out. And I think like even to some extent in the Baselands, yeah. People would hoard.
Together. Dogs and cats living together.
Mass hysteria!
So when it comes to Ragash, here's my thought on this.
He's a jerk.
He's a big jerk.
He's a great big jerky poopy face.
I would assume at this point, like the third Grim Portent to me would be a dictatorship is formed.
Ouch. Ugh. I hate it. I hate it because I love it. Boo. Boo. You're a stupid tiger and you should hate yourself.
So how do we get there? What's the highway? Life is a highway.
I want to ride it all night long.
Ragash wants to ride that highway.
Yeah, Ragash definitely wants to ride that highway. How would we get there? That is the big question.
Would step number 1, would that be maybe the council relenting all of their authority, real and imagined? Just saying, you know what? Calling out the fact that they had no real power.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I think that works.
The Senate dissolves.
Yes. This is how democracy dies.
Man, I hate
thunderous applause.
I hate spelling.
Spelling sucks. It's overrated.
I'm real bad at it. It's the curse of having a vocabulary without being able to spell.
Right? I have the same problem. Like, spell check is the only reason I get anything done. Spell check saves me at work.
Yeah, it saves me constantly as well. But I use the same language constantly. So, would this be the second step, do you think, or the first step?
I was just thinking that. I almost feel like that would be the second step. Because that's a big deal.
Yeah, I kind of thought the same. I wasn't sure, though. So what would be the first step to the council dissolving?
That's a really good question.
So, does the council just oversee the Skylands, or does it oversee the Baselands as well?
No, it oversees the Baselands as well.
What if there's a revolt in the Baselands?
That is where it would happen. Yep.
We met Red in the museum.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about that he had at one point been a dissident. So what if they go back? Because he's aware, and his children are aware that there's bad things going on.
Yes, I like that.
What's the main food source that comes out of the Baselands?
Produce and meat. Like, honestly, cattle.
Is there a special meat? Like, do you have like animals that only live on Stormsong?
I mean, we could. I honestly have not delved that close, so I haven't had a need to yet.
What if they raise and slaughter aurochs, like those massive mythological cattle?
Sure, that works. It's all Bremen from Fallout. All Chally Moo Moo all the time. Aw, Chally Moo Moo. Now I want to go play 76 again. I haven't played in a while. Yes, I'm one of those terrible people that enjoys Fallout 76, viewers. Don't at me.
That takes place in McElroy country. Even though I don't play those games because first-person games make me nauseous.
Yeah.
I still will give that game credit because,
there are Bim Bam and McElroy references in the game too.
That's what I heard. There's
like 3 of them so far. Yeah, not even exaggerating. Like, it's a thing. Also, they're adding the pit, so they're adding Pittsburgh in the next expansion, which makes me super happy because, like, the pit is dope in Fallout lore. So I'm here for it.
Great Auroch Rebellion occurs, and ranchers just decide, like, due to this inflation and everything else,
screw you.
we're just not going to provide you with food.
Yeah.
So, and that gives you a ample way to foment some significant conflict right off the bat.
Yes, I like it.
All right. They'll win.
This a-hole. This a-hole. Oh, he's the worst. He's literally the worst. He's one of my least favorite because everyone just universally hates him.
So I think we've got our first one is we're going to call folks who get a chance to dream. We're going to call them sleepers.
Okay.
But what if that becomes an addiction? Sleeping becomes
an addiction. I like that.
Since you can dream, you just want to sleep all the time.
Yeah. Oh, God. It's very Serenity. Ouch. They just laid down.
Yep. Or like the Lotus Eaters in Conan or...
Yes. Yes. I like that.
Begin to pledge fealty and devotion to Delwyn, causing his would like powers to begin to return.
Yep.
So, as you well know, D&D deities, that's where their power comes from. If I have worshippers, my thought on this is that this is the prophet. Step 3 is a prophet shows up and just basically, hey, guess what? I'm the prophet of dreams. And this is someone Delwyn has basically put in place to return Delwyn to the world.
I like that. Let me pull up. I have so many damn notes. Where is it? Where are my notes on Poopy Butt Delwyn? No, those are my characters. Not that I don't love Zephyr and Ryan, and we have a Cancun named Help in the campaign. And that's the only word he can say is help. He's a sweet bean. Yeah, he's got I can figure that out later. I know who that person could be. I just need to pull the notes up. I don't remember where they are.
The prophet shows up and he's like, remember when things were good?
Yeah.
Let's bring back that old time religion. All I can think of is like a tent revival.
Yes.
Which to me, tent revivals are already scary.
Yes.
Now add in the thing, if you really want to believe, all you have to do is go to sleep.
Right? Oh, that's horrifying. When you really think about that, that's terrifying.
What's the marching like sheep to the rhythm of the war drum at the end of that song? All you just hear in the background is "Go to sleep," which is creepy. Right, so where do we get from step 1 to step 3? I know you can't just say prophet.
Oops, prophet, and suddenly prophet.
Yep.
I think. Okay, hear me out. What if the people that become so addicted, to sleep? So the people that are going to allow the prophet to come forward, because the way I'm seeing this prophet is it's one of his former followers and right hands that's been trapped with him.
Yeah.
What if that individual, through connecting with people, is able to actually start to open rifts between the dream world and Stormsong and just occasionally let a monster out? Little snippets.
I love this.
Little snippets. And I use a lot of astral monsters, the Tome of Monsters has come in so clutch for me. I love that book. Yo, celestial dragons are not fun to fight. I'm just gonna say. You want a TPK? Celestial dragon from the Tome of Monsters is the way to go. That thing is scurry. I love that book. Yeah, because that's exactly what would happen is they would start to kind of punch through the veil. And that would totally work towards, Delwyn's overall goal of being screw you, this is all about me.
Well, also being for the prophet to come back and go, this never would have happened previously.
Mm-hmm.
But look, you've put your faith in the falsity of mortals. Look what they've done to our world, our beautiful. Don't you long for a better time? I think we did it.
I think we did too.
In just a little over an hour. Shockingly.
That's crazy.
So this is one reason I absolutely love this style. Cassandra and I did a couple episodes ago, the Bounty Hunter Star Wars trilogy, and she talked about she's like, I don't know as much about Star Wars as I probably should, but doing things this way, she could throw out ideas and I could easily just grab, us in my head, go, oh, this is the Star Wars equivalent or what if we did this and we knocked this out in like an hour. So yeah.
I love that. I love this. This is so much, and it's great. Continents fall all time.
The nice thing I enjoy about this style is it leaves breathing room to make the devil in the details. Mm-hmm. And also it's so wide and shallow, which is a term I didn't used to use, except for I was listening to the developers for Project Zomboid talk about their NPC update, and they were like, "Oh, we wanted this very deep NPCs and all this," and they said it doesn't work. So we went shallow and wide, and I was just like, what's shallow and wide? And they went on to explain. And I was like, holy shit, that is Mike Shea's prep style, shallow and wide. Let's go very wide, but let's keep things shallow enough so the game can change and evolve as the players do their thing, and they ruck shop, because that's what players do. They take your best laid plans and beautifully turn them into art. So yeah, I'm super excited for the Shadow War of Stormsong.
I am too. And thank you for like trusting me to.
It's mutual trust. You let me go in and go buck wild in your campaign setting. So,
I love that though. Like I don't know, it's fun to see someone else's take and like ask all the questions and delve, because like I spent so long developing the world.
Well, I think too, and I talked about this in the past of wanting to do this. There used to be a DC comic back in the late 70s, early 80s called Challenge. And what it was there's a different creative team on each book. And like creative team A writes and draws episode 1, and then creative team 2 gets episode 2 and has to pick up the narrative thread. So, but they don't know what team 1 did until the book comes out, like until right before. So it is a challenge.
Ooh.
And I've talked to James before about we should do a campaign on Gnome World United called Challenge, and it just line up everybody who wants to run and just say, okay, here's the thing. We're all going to run in a shared thing, and the players are all going to have their characters. It's up to you to pick up the threads from the previous game and run.
Interesting. I like that.
I think it could be a very fun, like, mental challenge, as well as for the right players to constantly be able to adjust their styles. It'd be kind of gonzo in the fact that, one person could be like, well, I love your fantasy thing, but how can I turn that into sci-fantasy?
Yeah.
And the third person going, well, now I just want to run sci-fi, so F you all, it's now we're in space.
Now we're in space.
Welcome to space. All right. Shannon, where can people find you? What can they do to support you? Tell them, folks.
Awesome. You can find me. I am predominantly on Instagram and TikTok. So I'm under Tangled Adventurer. And there I talk about geeky things. I talk about Disney because I'm a huge Disney nerd. Highly critical of some of the things happening right now, by the way, because Florida, that ain't it. So follow me there. Talk about D&D. I talk about all of my random stuff. I'm probably going to be doing some game streaming on TikTok because that's a thing that's happening now. So I think that sounds fun.
What are you going to play? If I might ask?
Probably something different. Thinking about doing a little For the King with some friends, which is a really fun game. I totally have to hand it to my former partner for like turning me on to that one because it is really fun and very hard. You can't beat that game. It's so overpowered. But it is fun. It is really fun if you're like a D&D kind of like crawly adventure person and want to just play something kind of cool. And maybe some Civ 6 because that's my current hyperfixation. I don't know.
You're a Civ household though.
We are totally a Civ household. I make no apologies.
No, you don't have to. I thoroughly enjoy games like that. I love like RTS civilization builders.
Yes.
It's just lately I am completely obsessed with Zomboid.
Yes, you are. But that's okay. Hyperfixation is good.
I think this Thursday I'm going to play something else, though.
Oh, what are you going to play?
I don't know for sure. There is a game, and all of a sudden the name escapes me. There is a game that I purchased, and I have it in my Steam library, where you play a blob.
That sounds so cute.
It's not cute at all. You are like a blob, like in the sense of like the movie, the 80s movie remake of the Blob.
Oh God!
And or The Thing, where you're trapped inside of a scientific facility and you run around through the air vents and such, and you eat the scientists and you get bigger. But the way you
it's
move,
like twisted Katamari Damacy.
a little bit. But like the way you move, because you're a blob, it's like you're shooting tendrils out and it's like moving you through these tunnels. I wish I could remember the name of it.
Oh
When we were getting ready to walk yesterday, I had mentioned that I might play that, and Doug immediately was like, "Oh yes!" But he knew the name of the game.
Of course he did.
He's like, "You love that game," and I was like, "I do love that game," and I can't remember what it's called. And I've just opened my Steam just to find out.
Just to find it. I was just looking at mine too. I was like, what else am I playing?
Carry on.
I was going to say, also, you can catch me every other Monday night on Down and Outlands here at Known World United on Twitch with an amazing group of people. We got female representation. We got queer representation. It's a super fun game. I was just telling somebody the other day too that like I've been playing with y'all for how long now? Like 3 years?
3 years, yeah.
3 years.
It went from Domains of Dread to this.
Yeah. But it's so funny because like when I signed on for Domains, I was like, oh yeah, maybe it'll be like a few sessions. Like, now I'm just like 3 years later.
You're like, maybe I'll be able to tolerate these a-holes.
Not at all. Oh my
God.
Now
you're like, can we play more Star Wars?
Yeah, now I'm like, yo, more.
I would also recommend, since you're a Fallout person, have you ever heard of a game called Death Trash?
No.
It is a game built in the style of the original Fallout game.
Dope.
And it's like a post-apocalyptic style game, but it's very like 80s vaporwave-esque thing. It's got those kind of weird throwback. It's an isometric style, but you're meeting things like the living flesh pile who just wants friends.
Oh my God.
What I'm here for more fleshy friends. I might bust out some Death Trash too. It's another game in my massive library of games. And James and I are talking about playing the village. God, what is that game called? The Wandering Village, because we both backed that on Kickstarter, and the demo's out right now, and it's really beautiful, and I love the idea of it, and I love those style of games. So,
would you like to see what I'm buying myself for my birthday?
I would.
Oh, it's not going to show me because of the blur. Oh, there it is. There it is.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
I'm a nerd, and honestly, like, everyone can fight me. The world of Equestria is one of the coolest planned out worlds in a cartoon ever. No. And I think the RPG is going to be very fun for those reasons.
I've been debating getting I think you're friends with him as well, Matt Lind, the G.I. Joe RPG. He's such a G.I. Joe guy. And then also I'm still trying to find a way to rope Danny into playing as well. She's played a couple small things, but always with James and not with me. And I really enjoy Danny's musical work, and she has inspired it was going to be a Monster Hearts game, and now it's just going to be a D&D game, like a Appalachian style village horror vein, built on some spooky country songs. So
that is awesome.
So yeah, that'll happen sometime in the future. Anyway, as Shannon, they just told us, you can find us both every other Monday night. You can find me Tuesday night on Tiny Ming. Yeah, I built some stuff with some parts yesterday.
Oh, dope.
So, yeah, I've kind of been messing around with the female bucks and parts, and I'm working on my Cassandra figure. I just have to figure out the head. I'm probably gonna have to glue it down.
Ooh.
But I allowed.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
To see it yesterday, so she was kind of excited. She was like, "What are those hand things?" And I was like, "Oh, those are like Shuri's shot gloves." So I have some stuff I'm working on with that. I got a bunch of heads to paint, got a bunch of a bunch of minis to paint.
Nice.
Thursday, Bad at Games. I'm not sure what we're playing, but I'm going to give y'all a break from Zomboid because I'm going to play it no matter what. So I don't need to continue to expose you to that game, I think, for like 3 weeks. And then this Saturday is a break from Drakewind Falls. It was on last night. And then so I keep your eyes peeled for that goodness. And then Sunday, we're back at prep school. I think this next Sunday, I either have Zach or Ryan on. I can't recall. I'm not good at these things. I'm bad. I'm bad at StreamYard. I'm bad at games.
No, you're not.
So I appreciate everyone turning in. But I appreciate more than that. I appreciate Shannon. I appreciate you being a player in my games, a friend, and a brilliant co-conspirator.
Aw, I appreciate you. Thank you. This was super fun. This is like the chillest, most fun way to spend a Sunday morning. I love it.
Yeah, I'm hoping it becomes a thing. And I've also told people, like, if you want to host without me and do like your own, like planning with somebody else, please do. It could be fun.
I love that.
So I'm hoping that this would be something that other folks like on Rainbow Collective would be interested as well.
Yes, so. I love that. I love it. Love it. Love it.
We'll see. I'll leave that. I'll leave that to you. That's that tribe listens more to you than they listen to me. So. Go figure, huh?
Yeah.
Anyway, this is prep school and
Yay!
class dismissed. Bye.
Class dismissed. Bye.